Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are going to be returning to our Burden of Command series. This game comes out today, so it's release day. You can find it on Steam. We are playing as a company commander now because the previous company commander was sniped by his own men before the last battle. We've just gone through the capture of Casablanca. The French have surrendered, and the men took some casualties, but we made it through. I don't know what to expect in the next battle because I assume we're going to head toward Algeria, but I don't know. So I guess we will see. Our units are starting to get a little bit more experienced. I'm really annoyed that I've still got this minor wound returning on top of the actual, like, how do you get rid of that on top of the icon here? But in any event, I'm sure that'll get patched out day one or shortly after. My officers here, I'm a 2 out of 5 star experienced. Dearborn is a 2 out of 5. Dearborn also has a lot of trust. Or actually, this isn't me anymore. This is Sergeant Grant. I'm up here. I'm a 4 out of 4 star trust and experience, the company commander. And the platoon guys are down here. First squad, first platoon, still the best unit in the house. 5 stars of experience. But first squad, second platoon has 4 now. And third squad, first platoon has 4, and third squad, third platoon has 4. So we're starting to get a bit more experienced. Our heavy weapons units, not so much. They've all gained a star, but not much more than that, because I can't figure out how to use them effectively. They end up getting stuck too far back when I'm rushing across the desert floor. We'll see how that evolves as the campaign evolves. That's enough of me rambling, though. I'm sure this will be like a 2-hour-long battle. So let's go ahead and see what our next stop on our journey is. From Morocco to Sicily. Oh, wow. So we skip Algeria altogether? 10 July, 1943. Looks like we're coming ashore.
When I got home, I learned that everybody was fighting that war. It wasn't just the sailors and soldiers and Marines. It was everybody. They were saving scrap, rolls of tinfoil. They were rationing gas, butter, of all things, which I'd been used to having all I wanted. And they were doing it enthusiastically. Plus, they were paying a little more tax so that they...
Okay, I'm a little surprised, to be honest, that we didn't end up getting involved in, like, Kasserine or the Tunisia campaign, but 1100 hours, 8 March 1943, near Rabat, Morocco. The chill winter wind of Morocco nips at your cheeks. As you jog past the 4-mile marker, weariness is now an old friend who likes to lurk in your bones. Of course, you're not the only one who's suffering. The trail ahead and behind is dotted with staggering figures in olive drab. 3rd Division's new CO, Major General Truscott, demands that every man under his command be able to run 5 miles in an hour in full pack from the lowest private to his regimental commanders. Those who can't hack it get sent to other outfits. But Truscott isn't the only change to get used to. 20 minutes, Old Man Wilson shouts from behind you as he leads his bedraggled 2nd platoon on their run. Come on, boys, he shouts as the men behind him. You're not going to let the captain beat you. That's certainly one way to fire him up. He's still a sergeant at heart. Run further, faster, and fight harder. He's still a sergeant at heart. Captain, that's you now. The promotion was inevitable. Captain Lamb's recommendation for his untimely death made the decision easy for regiment. The paperwork came through in January, and Colonel Macon pinned the bars to your collar just before he himself was promoted to brigadier general. You can only hope you'll measure up to what when Nickel Company and your command inevitably go into battle again. They won't keep us here forever. There's hard fighting over in Algeria. The islands of Corsica and Sardinia could be next. Well, I know that's not the case. There's hard fighting over in Algeria. It's hard to tell who's winning in the east. All you know is that a lot of men and vehicles are going there and fighting hard. You finish the run with 8 minutes to spare. Not bad, all things considered. However, there's no time to celebrate. First Sergeant Grant, promoted that same day. You made captain, waits anxiously at the door to your CP. There's still a war on. Grant snaps a salute as he approaches. No rest for the wicked, apparently. Captain, there's a few matters to attend to. Firstly, there is a battalion briefing scheduled for 1200 hours. All platoon leaders and company commanders to attend. You nod. A quick word to Wilson sends him on to inform your other officers of their appointed time. There's the usual paperwork, but that can wait because you've got a reporter asking for an interview? Grant continues. And the new first platoon leader was arriving from stateside this morning. With all due respect, Captain, he looks a bit green. You sure he's not just seasick, Jack? It's too bad Grant didn't get a field promotion. With all due respect, Captain, Grant replies sourly, I just hope that when the enemy chews him up, there will be enough of him left to be spit out. Optional scene, possible prestige, trust, and realism change. So we can go straight to the LT or do the reporter. I guess we'll do the reporter then. What? A light, refreshing rain begins to fall as First Sergeant Grant leads you toward the rusting fuselage of a downed bomber. The Army stripped off all the important parts and the locals finished the job. Now only an aluminum skeleton and the faint outline of a white Allied star are left. You note a woman in fatigues, and also a sergeant's stripes in a sheltered lee beside the wreck. Her sleeve carries the blue and white stripes of the 3rd Infantry Division. She brightens up when she sees you. Captain, do you have a moment? Of course I do, miss. Miss Violetta Margarina, correspondent for the Prime Tribune, she says, rattling off the words as if she's on a typewriter. As she begins to pull out a notepad, she cocks a glance skyward and blinks at the rain. Somewhere dry, preferably. The inside of the fuselage allows the damp smell of rain to mingle with the stench of fouled oil and rust. However, the bomb bay... By the way, I just would think that sitting inside an old aluminum aircraft stripped of everything in the middle of a downpour would just be like... That'd be like a lo-fi ambiance I want to fall asleep to. There's something real... I just enjoy being out in rain. Anyway. However, the bomb bay itself is surprisingly intact, despite a leak here or there. With the catwalk and racks removed, there's enough room for the 3 of you to be comfortable and for a moment dry. Miss Margarina warms her hands by blowing hot breath into them. Never knew that the desert could get so cold. Okay. I noted you're wearing sergeant stripes. The jacket's a loan. The Army gave me a rank of captain as a courtesy, of course, she says, and pats the patch on her sleeve. Were there women correspondents? Like, I assume in the British there were. But... And I know a lot of... Well, I guess I'm curious. Especially combat correspondents. Reporters, sure. But anyway. We're not in the combat zone anyway right now, so... Personally, I find that having a few stripes is better than a green correspondent's armband. This way the privates know they can't boss me around unless the shells are flying. The whole thing is a little crazy, really. I'm still a civilian, but under military authority. The Army can tell me where to go and what to cover, but usually they don't because it makes us less effective. Okay. How'd you get into this trade? It runs in the family. My father writes esoteric medical encyclopedias, and my mother pens thrillers. If she was going to say her father was a reporter, I was going to say, like, is this a riff off of Winds of War? Because that British, there's a British guy who's a reporter in it, and then his daughter, like, follows him around to, like, El Alamein and other places. Okay. Esoteric medical encyclopedias? What does that mean? Okay. And your mother? Ever read The Hawk, Scarlet Tango, or maybe The Fragile Knife, a study by Torchlight? No. I know what a war correspondent does, but I'm going to ask questions anyway. We're the press for the Army. Shakes her head. Sort of. We're more trusted than the official press releases because we have more access. We do get censored, but that's not really what you were asking, was it? I'm here to write stories for people back home. Accurate, truthful, interesting stories about the men on the front lines. Sometimes they even get published. So sometimes accurate stories don't make it. The truth is the first casualty of war. The uninteresting stories are left out. It is, she says. Morale requires it. Telling folks back home about how things actually are and knowing they can't do anything to fix it. There's no point in telling my mother what I've seen, First Sergeant Grant says. I just make her worry more, and I don't want her to know some of the things either. Or ever. She spares Grant a sad smile before she turns back to you. So yes, there will be some editing here. Okay. She pulls out a small wax paper pack from her pocket, which she unwraps to reveal a small notebook. With deliberate motions, she flips past the beige cover, and then flips through pages upon pages of cramped notes, until she finally finds a bookmark, an empty page. Her pen, silver and black, slides out of the next after the tap of the side. She prepares to write. There's just enough light coming through the cockpit windows to catch the first shift of the ink upon the page. However, there's wax paper stays between her other fingers, angled to intercept any droplets that happen to fall its way. Now then, Captain, your Sergeant Jack, First Sergeant Grant here, was kind enough to relay your particulars. No need to cover that ground, she says as she starts scratching down notes under a dry patch of fuselage. Grant gives a little cough and looks away. The current dateline is 11:40 hours, March 8th, 1943, near Rabat, Morocco. But we'll be talking about the events of last November. Captain, your unit played a critical role in storming Cape Fidelia and silencing the French coastal guns. Can you tell our readers what happened there? The victory surprised me, so did our losses. Pay homage to the men. Play up the army. We took the bull by the horn and brought it down. There were a lot of heroes in my outfit. Okay. So what was it like to serve under Patton? Miss Margarina asks. Everyone seems to have a different opinion. He's our general. That's touching, Miss Margarina says. Initial reports indicated numerous difficulties getting ashore, but what about your share of Morocco? I saw plenty of wrecked boats on that beach. The Navy infantry won the day. I don't know that I want to, like, antagonize the Navy, do I? Well, they're both kind of antagonistic. What does this one do? Kick the French on their backs. We learned a lot and we taught some too. We learned a lot and we taught some too. Nicely put, Miss Margarina says, and then records your take on the battle. I can only hope the army will be just as flexible in the days ahead, especially given how badly things are going in Tunisia. Tunisia? General Faidenal really left a mess as Second Corps commander. Units scattered, British, French, and ours all mixed together. At least that's what I've heard from those who have been out there. General Hughes gave me a quote. We have men, but no organization. Hopefully Patton can change that. Rommel certainly won't wait. Patton will certainly make the Second Corps work. I didn't say he couldn't do worse. The old Second Corps commander ran things his way terribly. Was he really all that bad? If you believe the stories, he was the worst, she says as she lets slip a shrug. He didn't want to leave this bunker he'd been building. Kept badgering his subordinates and scapegoating them. Mocked the British and so on. To hear his men tell it, he was trying to win a medal from the Germans. Ah, things are letting up, Miss Madrina notes. You really didn't hold back. I doubt the censors will let this all slip through. Miramar? It seems several of them were wounded by shell fragments. Well, shells don't discriminate. Our guns plastered the town. Shells don't care. Lie a little. Okay. Those Germans were not happy. One of them, a doctor, supposedly protested his separation from his patients as being against the Geneva Convention. The odd thing was how quickly the brass whisked them back to the States. But those were the first German prisoners we took, so maybe there was some novelty in that. The rain lifts and a sliver of sun comes out from behind the clouds, filling the interior of the bomber with a promise of light. Miss Margarina returns her notebook to its wax paper home. Thank you very much, Captain. Maybe we can do another interview in a few months. Yeah, maybe. First Sergeant Grant helps her exit their boots, squelching on the fresh mud. She favors him with a kind word and then turns and gives you a final happy and very civilian wave before she heads off to interview someone else. The life of a correspondent is certainly an odd one. I hope you'll make print, First Sergeant Grant says, as you join him outside. But even if they don't, the men'll know. They always know. So she's just going to walk off with your jacket? Oh, Grant. You, First Sergeant Grant replies and falls into step with you heading back to Nickel Company without missing a stride. And I figure she needs it more than me. Did you give that to her for a particular reason? I'm a generous soul, Captain, and she was going to help raise morale by getting her story. Seems a fair exchange. First Sergeant Grant replies, clearly hoping to not be ribbed too much for this. Can you keep this quiet? The men don't need to know. Most haven't seen an American woman in months. What, and lower the morale for the sake of pride? There's plenty of ways to build morale back up, First Sergeant Grant notes. You know, after such a demoralizing hit like not hearing about this. Make the men jealous. Make sure the men know. Make sure the men know. There's no way this will stay quiet. Better to get out ahead of it. Let the men have their laugh and then get on to other things. A few days later, your colorful depiction of the events in Morocco receives widespread coverage in a major newspaper. The brass is largely pleased with your colorful depiction of Nickel Company's trials. Your men are well satisfied with your accounting of things. They fully understand that the censors had to clip certain difficulties. Prestige +2, trust +10, realism -1. Your new subordinate turns out to be a chestnut-haired fellow in brass new field uniform with duffel bag creases, his wide eyes shining, bright with enthusiasm seen in schoolboys who haven't seen war. Captain, he calls out and offers a parade ground salute as he steps inside. Sniper check! Your makeshift office. Thomas Edgar G. Sergeant. So his name is Thompson Edgar G. Second Lieutenant. The eagerness in his expression is almost as painful as he waits for you to return his salute and take a seat. He hands you his transfer papers with a grin, more suited to a kid running after a good humor truck than a soldier headed for war. How'd a kid like you become an officer? I don't want to insult him initially. Where are you from, Thompson? Piedmont, South Dakota, Captain. It's a little town just north of Rapid City. My pa's the school teacher there. We're not really well-traveled folk. Pa was too young for the last war, so I guess this is the first time any of us will have ever fought in an army before. Well, except for my great-granduncle, but he fought for the Confederacy, so we don't talk about him. Uh-huh. Sure you don't. Why'd you join the Army, Lieutenant? It was the right thing to do, sir, Thompson replies with unshakable conviction. I'm not one for thinking that anything's perfect on this fallen earth, but the United States of America is the closest thing to it. When the Japs hit Pearl Harbor, well, I sure as hell wasn't going to sit by and sit this one out. I'd been thinking about going beforehand, but there was no reason to, not afterwards. How'd you become an officer? Well, Thompson glances at his feet. I'm not quite sure myself, Captain. They picked me out not long after I finished basic training. Put me in OCS. I'm still not sure why they thought it was officer material, but he looks back up at you, features filled with eagerness and determination. If being a good officer is the best to serve my country, I mean to try as hard as I can. Captain, he says as his eyes pack the earth floor nervously. They told me back home that I was officer material, but I'd be lying like a cheap rug if I said I knew what I was doing. He looked up anxiously. I don't suppose you have any advice for me. You're here to kill the enemy. Never forget that. Can I just tell you to listen to your NCO? Well, if you don't know what you're doing, I don't want you to be like, be all creative. Like, listen to your damn orders. Get a feel for the system and work within it. I guess it's the closest thing to trust your NCO. An officer may carry the burden of command, but he's still just one part of a vast machine, one which requires each cog to work with the rest. Thompson doesn't seem to quite understand that. He nods in that I'll do what I can way, which suggests he doesn't think he can do much at all. Hopefully he'll learn better before he wrecks his own career and more. Now then, we have a battalion briefing. You step out... Rangers, what? You step outside to find other officers already waiting, or rather listening, to a tall, rock-jawed captain, a ranger, a patch sewn in on his sleeve. I don't like that sometimes this double clicks, and I don't... Because, like, I don't know what he just said. It moved 2 screens. Okay. "Oh, hell, Cord," Wilson asked of the ranger captain. "Did you belt him right away?" "Well, nobody insults my pa and lives," the other man answers with a wry smirk. "So yeah, I socked him right in the kisser." "Right in the kisser!" Okay. The captain answers. He picks himself right off the floor, laughing like it was just a Tuesday. Then he tells me we need fighters like me and offers to buy me a drink and invites me to join the Rangers. Okay, so this is just a ranger? At last, Wilson notices. "Captain," he says, after the obligatory exchange of salutes, "I'd like to introduce you to an old friend of mine, Captain Cordell Boston." "Pleasure, Captain." "A pleasure," Captain Boston replies. "Sam's told me a lot about you and the company." "Horrifying stories, I bet." "He might have mentioned something. Stories to make your blood curdle. Why, I'm quaking in my boots as we speak," the ranger officer replies with a rakish grin. "I'm sure I've taken enough of your time." "Captain, gentlemen, Sam." Captain Boston departs. Wilson chuckles to himself and then turns to you. "Who's this fellow?" Wilson asks and nods toward the still silent Thompson. You introduce Lieutenant Thompson to the officers of Nickel Company. Nate Stern, Ash Dearborn, and the old man Wilson. Thompson insists on shaking everybody's hand and is talking to each, which would be fine if the briefing didn't start in 5 minutes. "I hope you don't mind the rough welcome, Lieutenant," Dearborn says to Thompson as you all migrate toward the briefing tent. "There are many new faces in the officers' mess these days. New company commanders, a new regimental commander, and even a new CO at battalion." The others nod. "Major Cloud's been transferred to the 9th Infantry Division not long after Casablanca. You'd barely gotten to know Colonel Eisenor, his replacement, before he came down with malaria and had to be invalided home. His replacement is probably why there's a briefing today." "Gee," Thompson replies anxiously, "does anybody know what the battalion commander's like? The new one, I mean?" "Sure, some have ideas." "I've heard some," Wilson admits. "None of them good. Heard the fella got transferred directly from Supply Depot, that he's never commanded men in combat." Dearborn's expression is a grim one. A clerk who glanced at his file and said his only real command has been in the Philippines. That he's never led white men before? Okay. Let alone infantry. "I heard he's a German." Oh yes, it's Erwin Rommel. "I heard he's a German," Stern says, as if he were spitting a watermelon seed. "A dirty, no-good Crouch Schmeckel." Okay. Just drop it, Lieutenant. Stern opens his mouth to reply, but you cut him off with a hard glare. No officer in your outfit is going to get off questioning the loyalty of your battalion CO in front of you or any of your other officers. Stern's been with Nickel Company long enough to know that. "Yeah, Captain," he replies, and he stays quiet afterward. No weedy desk clerk awaits you in the briefing tent. No cackling radio serial villain either. Instead, the briefing is opened by a brown-haired, strong-chinned giant of a man who looks barely older than you. Lieutenant Colonel John A. Hedges, battalion commander. He was actually just a lieutenant colonel right now, but please just flow with it. That's the same rank. Lieutenant Colonel and full spelled out Lieutenant Colonel. How's that different? It's only when you see the rank on his collar that you realize he must be the Colonel Hedges, the new battalion commander. Gentlemen, he says as he motions over, his sharp eyes fixed on your own. I know I might take some getting used to, but I'd like to avoid losing too much time to you, either dilly or dally. The sooner your fellows know the odds, the sooner you can pass along the breaks to the men who do the work. Colonel Hedges snaps up a long wooden pointer. Italy! And steps before the briefing board. There's a lot pinned on there, including a map of Europe's soft underbelly with a bold Army Air Force mark upon it. Starting next week, the entire 3rd Infantry Division will begin a new training schedule. In addition to the current hand-to-hand fighting drills, the Army daily dozen and long-distance runs will begin amphibious landing exercises and rock climbing practice as well. If the training is amphibious, it's not Algiers. Yeah, that's obvious. Since there's rock climbing, it's not Sardinia. I don't know anything about Sardinia or Corsica. The others finally remember to take their seats, and the new schedule is sun up to sundown. Once the Germans are kicked out of Tunisia, our forces will combine with the British 8th Army, and together we will embark on the next step toward breaking the Nazi stranglehold over Europe. Colonel Henteds indicates our next thrust targets the soft underbelly of Hitler's empire. We will land in Sicily. Okay. Morocco was good practice for that then, I guess. And the 7th Infantry Regiment has the honor of being its spearhead. We will fight the Italians on the beaches. Great. We will fight the Germans inland. Yay, the Germans too.
In other words, we were outside of Bizerti because they bombed the port of Bizerti, the Germans did quite often, because we were about, I would say 25 miles from Bizerti in bivouac area. And we could see the searchlights and stuff at night up there, and you could see the ack-ack going up and breaking, and you could hear the bombs falling and everything. But it was a long way from us. I mean, but when we left. They cleaned everything out. You know, of course, Africa had fallen by that time, and because we left from the port of Bizerti to go to Sicily then.
Okay, so we skip all the training, I guess? 0400 hours, 10 July 1943 at sea. The deck of the landing craft shifts beneath your boots as you scan the dark of the night. There's not a hint of land in sight. Your whole world has been reduced to this metallic bulk of a hull, and the stink of salt water mixed with diesel fumes. The faint crash of waves above the ever-present din of diesel engines is the only relief from the monotony. From the enclosed wheelhouse you watch your company assemble on the open deck before you. Wet and miserable, they form up by platoon, each bracing themselves for the battle soon to come. All right, First Sergeant Grant bellows over the thrum of the engines. Let me go through the plan one last time for you jokers in the back. 1st and 2nd Battalion have gone off ahead to secure us a beachhead. First order of business once we hit the ground is to clear the coastal defenses off the west flank. That'll be the left side for those who forgot your compass is in Africa. The men chuckle at such greenhorn notions. They're veterans of Africa. If you're wondering how far we have to go, it's not far. First Sergeant Grant calls out, his bellow of a voice competing with the engines. You'll see the cliffs plain as day. They're that big. The Italians supposedly have them all wired up, so we gotta swing round and hit them from behind. Hey, Sarge, comes one familiar voice from the assembled throng. If we're going around the cliff, then what's with the ladders? A good question. He may make corporal one day. Battalion thinks the Navy might drop us off target, Grant explains. All the veterans understand. If some of us somehow end up under the cliffs, they'll be able to climb up, unless you'd prefer to do it by hand. Forget the climbing, I'd prefer a steak dinner and 3 hours alone with Rita Hayworth, Morris calls out. Could you order that instead? Most guys would have said Mae West. Mae West is so beloved among the soldiers and sailors that they nicknamed their life vests after her. Thing is, she's not all looks, but a writer too. The kind that makes double entendres roll off the tongue and slip past the censors. Half the company bursts out laughing at the joke. Grant isn't one of them. Your first sergeant steadfastly ignores the interruption and presses on. Our job is to clear a path inland for the AT guns. They'll lock down the main highway to Argento. If those guns don't get there, the Krauts can drive their Panzers up to that road and roll up the whole damn landing, so do not fuck this up. Yes, First Sergeant, a private in the front calls back. Others merely nod in agreement. The sailing over from Tunisia hasn't been as quick or as easy. Half the men are sick or close to it. And before you can do anything about that, you have to get them to the beach. You cast a quick glance across the cramped bridge to the figure at the wheel. The Navy, in its infinite wisdom, assigned you the same guy who drove your Higgins boat in Morocco. He hasn't really been much of a conversationalist during the trip across the Mediterranean, but given how he handled things last time, you're probably in pretty good hands. Okay. A wave slams into the ship. Some of the men are tossed enough to revisit their breakfast or even dinner, but not every man. Up there at the prow is Lieutenant Thompson, standing tall amid your old first platoon as the landing craft steadies itself, and he steadies with it. Kid's got his sea legs, First Sergeant Grant notes quietly beside you. What do you think of him? I think he's a new officer, Captain, First Sergeant Grant says in a low voice so as not to be overheard. Anything like Dearborn was? Well, he doesn't shine up his class ring or talk your ear off about battles from the last century, First Sergeant Grant says. But he also hasn't seen the wolf, unlike Lieutenant Dearborn. Okay. Well, he's going to have to become a veteran quick. Resolve to keep an eye on Thompson for now, just in case he needs a hand. A glance at your map finds things in order. All the objectives are clearly laid out. All you need to do is take them. Captain, First Sergeant Grant remarks, aloud in a dutiful public tone. We're getting close now. Do you want to say a few words to the men before we hit the beach? You're right, First Sergeant. I'll talk to him. I don't like speeches. Yeah, sure, whatever. You follow Grant out onto the open deck. Your company is all there. Company, attention! The thunder of 186 pairs of boots pounding on the steel deck in unison roar through the air, drowning out the din of the engines for one brief moment. Grant turns to you and gives you a nod. They're all yours, Captain. You stare out over your men. They stare back at you, waiting. This won't take too long. We are targets the second we step on the beach. The brass expect this to be quick. I'm not so sure. The brass gathers all their intel and then makes decisions. Whether that matches what they tell their soldiers is another thing entirely. Daddies will play for keeps, so will we. Okay. Fight smart and cheat if you have to. Good luck and Godspeed. A rattle of gunfire echoes in the distance off the bow. Fog flashes silver and gold with ghostly reports of artillery. Slivers of dawn light reveal that the silhouette of the coastline ahead. For an instant, the glare of the shell burst outlines the faint outline of a hill, a house, and a clump of trees. Captain, we're at the cliffs. Lieutenant Wilson grabs Thompson's arm and drags him over to you. Yeah, kid, the Navy's gone off course, just like Colonel Headage figured they might. Indeed, Lieutenant Dearborn declares as he somehow manages to stroll over despite the shifting deck. Our situation appears to have changed greatly, and none for the better. A new plan is in order. We plan to fight, and we will win, Stern says as he charges up from the back. That hasn't changed. Shore is drawing steadily closer. In 2 minutes, it'll be too late to do anything but go ashore. There's not much to give, Captain, Wilson says. We got to start the fight from wherever we land. Can't call for support, though. Get the Navy to hit those cliffs at least. Navy is supposed to blast the town for at least an hour. Which isn't going to be a problem since it would take at least twice as long to get over there. Okay. Going over the cliffs is risky, but that's where we are. The cliffs are in the way, but there has to be cover on the other side. Bring the ladders, boys. Okay. As the shutter ripples through the deck plates and the bow crunches against the shore, the engines strain for a second to make sure the LCI won't drift free, slowing the ship slightly to the side. Your fingers tighten around the stock of your carbine. The ramps come down. Breakers crash against the sand. Your heart thuds in your chest. Here we go! Alright, at least the company's all coming ashore together. That's a positive. We've got to take... Where are our objectives here? Alright, so we got to get out to the highway here. And then these objectives. So we got to get over the cliff first. That's the first obstacle. And then we've got to push inland. We got to move along this roadway. There's definitely going to be some bad guys in these trenches and MG nests here. So maybe we can set the heavy weapons up here. Provide us some cover. Hopefully they've got a nice line of sight there and they can... drop some suppression or smoke or whatever they've got. And then we can just go up the middle maybe. Maybe use these houses on the roadway and the trenches here for some cover. What's our casualty percentage? Less than 9 or less than 10? Alright. Dearborn, how much can you move? Alright, so these guys can only move 1 hex at a time, right? He could bolster, but that would cost movement points for the rest of the unit here. So we'll move his other parts of the company first. Tripwires. Ow! Okay. So no casualties, but we did take some suppression damage here. There's an enemy 47 millimeter ATG over there. Took some fire in the flank.
We're gonna need support.
Get into that rough terrain. Oh, we took a casualty from a mine.
Mines!
Well, there's nothing I can do about that. Off the beach, boys. Thunder from the west end of the beach. Jesus Christ, Sobuski, your sparky radio operator exclaims over the distant ringing of your ears as he ceases to shield the radio. That precious link with Battalion is untouched. What in God's name was that? Was that one of their, they had like flying radio-guided bombs at Sicily, didn't they? Robert Rowan, bombed by a Ju-88 bomber off Gala. Okay. First Sergeant Grant squints toward the medieval-looking village. Italian anti-tank gun, and with a clear shot on the beach, judging by the trajectory. We might want to clear that bastard out, Captain, he says as he turns to you. shifting a sleeve to let a bite of dirt fall. If that's still there when our tanks come through, you don't need them to spell it out for you. Those enemy armor-piercing shells might kill a single man if he's unlucky, but they can more readily hit tanks, trucks, and just about anything else that tries to get ashore. Yeah. We'll worry about it. All right. The beach was made for tourists, but that's not why you're here. The cliffs are high, but your men carried the scaling ladders ashore. The draw to the right, which would have been your exit if the Navy hadn't screwed up, is the only way through. For that matter, the beachside town to the left could give your men cover, but the Navy plans to begin pulverizing it soon. It ain't good, First Sergeant Grant says as he wades ashore beside you. The Italians have got something on the cliffs and in the draws in the town. I'm not going to ask him to sweep the cliffs. We're going to just climb the cliffs, no delays. I don't trust my ability to delay the planned bombardment. All right. Enemy troops shooting at us here as our men scale these cliffs, but we got up there without too much difficulty. Okay, so Dearborn's platoon is almost all off the beach, up the cliff. We've got one enemy anti-tank gun on our flank. I'll take it out if I can, but I don't know that I'll have that option. I don't want to send these guys over here. The town over there is going to get pounded by artillery, isn't it? So, anyway, that's Dearborn's turn. So now we've got, I'd say let's move Wilson next. Okay. All right. So Wilson will not get all of his squads off up the cliffs. God damn it, another mine? How many casualties am I going to take just from frickin' mines? Why is take command disabled? Right. Another mine explosion. Good God.
Shit.
Taking fire as we get up this cliff. We're taking suppression damage, but not too many casualties yet. %. So one casualty here and there. Not the end of the world, but... Okay. And that round, Wilson's already moved his men.
MG!
Italian machine guns. Okay. Thompson's on the flank. Is there anything you can do here? You can shoot at the MG, or at the anti-tank gun. You can suppress it potentially with one of your squads. And they've got more movement points here, so maybe you can suppress them a bit.
Steady fire.
Oh, it's a cool little explosion in the water there. They're fully suppressed now. So no reason to do anything else yet. We'll get the rest of Thompson's platoon off the beach. Oh, he's moved all his points? Damn. Alright, well let's activate him with my movement commands then. Up that cliff. Mine explosion, another casualty. Sure got a lot of mines. Okay. And that's everybody with stern. So, first platoon, the main commander of that platoon is still stuck on the beach. Try and get those MGs up here. Can you press the MG to move too?
We're not done today.
Oh, they probably can't move. Damn it. I just forget that the MGs can move. They take 2 to move. So that was a waste of a press. Stern should probably move closer to the guns, or to the mortars. His unit's a little bit broken up. Okay. I don't know, just in case there's anybody over there on our flank, we'll do a shot at the flank. That should do it for this turn. I don't think I have anything else. Time ticks on as your men continue their push onto the beach. A thunder crashes out from the sea. Big guns, little guns, all guns. They all join in and the town gets plastered. Okay. So this area over here is going to get shelled. Probably want to avoid that. Probably don't move into that house then. I'll move Thompson on the flank first here. Do we have any intel on... Can we see any of these guys to shoot at them? Not really. I'm hoping this house down here is not part of the town. Move them into that house. They should have some cover here. They'll get shot at. But they should be in cover here. So they take some stress damage, but they do survive. Use my captain to activate these guys. Try and strafe these guys from here. Okay. We got a decent chance of overwhelming them if we push them hard. They are fully suppressed. And they're also in cover where they're at, so the enemy may react and shoot at us, but we'll be in cover. So first platoon will charge forward. They're going to get hit on the flank by these troops as they charge across an open road. And their attack fails because of it. Fuck. Alright. They can't assault. They're in the open. I think their best bet is actually to fall back into that house again. They'll get shot at again as they retreat. But I think pulling back is the best approach. I suppose I could have moved my officer forward to lead the charge, but that'd be getting out a little too far ahead. So that'll do it for that first company. They're struggling a bit. Our first platoon. Anti-tank guns hitting stern in the flank. Just little old stern. Let's move this MG up onto this ridge here. So we'll get our MGs up on the ridge. Hopefully they've got decent lines of fire. And stern will get off the beach, or at least onto the beach. Can I call any artillery? We got the mortars that are still on the beach. What can I hit with them? Alright, there's an MG here. So might as well call RD in on them. Okay. Let's Get my captain down here. Use some cover. Rally these boys. Or I guess I just rallied myself. They're going to need rallying in the next turn, though. Okay. Right, there's troops on our right flank. Also troops straight ahead. Okay. Alright, so all of Dearborn's platoon is up on this ridge now. Dearborn as well. Let's try and clear our right flank here by shooting at the guys on the right. We've got some cover at least, right? Oh, we took a casualty. Great. Okay, they're suppressed at least. So that'll do it for Dearborn's men. Definitely a lot more casualties already than last time around.
How much ammo left?
Sparagli! Spara tutti!
Okay. Alright, so Wilson should be able to use this full formation. These guys are suppressed. These guys are not. Okay. The Italians are giving us a little bit of pain here. Those jerks. Over there, over there. I don't know how they're surprised. We've been shooting at them this whole time. Anyway, we inflicted a casualty on the enemy and also suppressed them now. So that should be it for turn 2. The big naval guns continue to pound the town, a town that you may have to enter soon. They got their fire plan, Captain, First Sergeant Grant says, but maybe we can shift their fire somewhere else. Have their fire control coordinator call in some rounds in the Italian trenches in the center. I mean, that would be... We'll see. For now, they're going to keep shelling over here on the flank. Pretty ineffectually, I imagine. Because we do have to take this objective up here. Alright, let's use my MGs here to try and suppress some of these Italians.
Fire!
So we'll start using Stern's heavy weapons groups. Okay. Not as effective as I would like. Okay. And let's rally these boys.
Listen up!
Can we rally and bolster?
We're gonna pound them flat!
I don't know that there's a lot of use in doing that.
Ready, men?
Rally, bolster, all that jazz. And then give them the order to assault. Please don't get hit in the flank by these guys.
It's our turn! Charge!
Yay! We overran the Italians in that first trench there. Good job, boys. Was that naval gunfire that just dropped on our flank? Oh, that was with me in the... I forgot. Yeah, that was me leading the way. Okay. What about some artillery? Can I call in the mortars? Yeah, hit these MGs. Or are they mortars? Whatever they are, hit them. Suppress them. Didn't really suppress them at all. Okay. I think Stern still has some MG units that can do some damage here. You know, I wonder if I rotate them. Oops. Well, they're... What's their line of sight from here anyway? It could just be because of the direction they're pointing. Yeah, they still can't see over there. Okay. All right. Stern's just going to get up on the ridge there. Naval bombardment's going to keep hitting that town on the flank. There might be some Italians in there. All right, so Stern's boys have moved. Now, what next? We've taken out one enemy group and taken one trench line. Is this an MG? No, they're an 88 millimeter. Okay. I don't know what's going on over here on this unit, on that flank. So let's see if we can suppress them. Still no intel on that. Well. Alright. Bolster these boys and then charge forward on this MG. I was like, are they taking fire? No, it's just more naval guns. Shouldn't impact their charge on this MG nest or pillbox or whatever the hell. Enemy squad surrenders, and we are working our way off the beach. Dearborn leads his boys forward. They take the position. They get hit in the flank by this squad over here. But they get an undaunted, so I don't think they even took any casualties there. One of the squads is not activated, but... Can they shoot back at these guys? Okay, so there's an enemy officer there. And they are suppressed, so good on that. Alright, so that's Dearborn's turn. We couldn't activate the one other squad. I used up all my points as a leader already. Be nice if we could call artillery down on these guys, but we can't. So let's see if our flank squad here can surprise them and maybe suppress them a bit. They're at least partially suppressed. Bolster these boys. They can't assault anywhere, though. At least they'll need 2 turns to do it. So let's move into this house where there's some cover. Okay. Captain, he says. Our new lieutenant, he's got something to ask about naval firing in the town. Okay. What's he... Thompson says the Navy should stop firing on the town because it's killing civilians, ruining history, making ruins too early. Okay. Seriously, Thompson? I've already asked the Navy to shift fire. Okay, Captain. Guess I don't have to pretend to try and convince you. Alright, can't assault in either direction, so I guess we might as well try and suppress the squad on our flank, which isn't fully suppressed yet. And that'll do it for first platoon. Right. I don't have any movement points, or do I? It looks like I have points left, but I really don't. At least I don't think I do. Alright, whatever. And then, can we get Wilson's squad to advance up in the center and take this platoon out and move toward that objective? Alright, Wilson, bolster your boys.
That's our way.
Can't get there. Right, move these guys off the trench to that position. Okay. I don't like moving these guys into the open, but I need to be able to get to this trench. Even odds of a successful charge.
Come on. Bayonets, damn it.
Got him. Nice. Okay, so we are pushing off the beach, pushing past the coastal road. These guys up on our flank, and they failed to move. Great. But in any event, we've got 3 squads with leaders all pushing off the beach toward the first objective. The right flank is still a bit of a problem. Hopefully Dearborn can help their next turn. But overall, that was a good turn. The Navy's yet to shift fire from the town to the trenches. Okay. Within 3 turns. I don't want them to bombard the trench 3 turns from now. Okay. Sure. Maybe they'll shift fire north. I don't know. Rather not advance through the town while it's getting shelled. But while bombarding the trenches would be useful up here, I'm already kind of getting too close to those trenches. Go ahead and drop mortars on the enemy mortars. Hey, we inflicted a casualty. Nice. Okay. Can Stern's MGs do anything from here? Not much. No, not really. Alright. Let's try and get the MGs a little closer into this wooded area here. They can maybe help with the attack on the ridge up this way. Battalion on radio, Corporal Sabelski calls out. They want to scout out for a big gun, firing on the beach. Okay. We're going to move both MGs here, linking these two squads effectively. Artillery's at least wrecking any troops that are in these houses in the town. Okay. The mortars are still on the beach. You rally yourself? No? I don't have anything for Stern to do. So he can end. And then... Can these guys get there? No. Alright, let's send... Let's bolster this squad here.
We're not losing today.
We'll try and overrun the squad on our flank. It's dangerously close to where the Artie is coming, but really, you can't move? Oh shit, Italian artillery, heavily suppressed. Where are those guns coming from? Jesus Christ. How many shells are they gonna shoot? Alright, I guess we'll lead this squad myself.
Forward.
The goal here is to charge and take these guys out, and then move back into the trenches toward the center of the line. To avoid getting too badly hurt. Just clears our flank while also not burdening us with staying in range of those guns. I want to stay away from there if I can. We'll leave these guys in position here. I want to keep them in some cover. All right, shoot at those mortars. I don't know what was actually hitting us. I guess it said 75. So it wasn't those guns, but... Okay, we'll need to move Wilson's squads that are still on the ridge forward, too. Alright, I'm going to try and clear the right flank with Dearborn's squad here. Only a 50-50 chance.
Shit.
They failed. But we'll move them up toward the entrenchments on the right flank near the exit. And then Dearborn and his first squad will move, I suppose, toward the objective? I don't know. I don't like this position, frankly. How about you just rally there?
Gentlemen, compose yourselves.
Gentlemen, compose yourselves. All right. That should help next turn, since there wasn't really anywhere to move them. That made a whole lot of sense. All right, I want to move Wilson's other squads forward here.
That's bully. Come on.
Says we can charge there. There's got to be more troops we can't see, but those are pretty decent odds to charge.
Quick time.
I'm sure we'll get like a reaction shot as we move up on the bunker, but you got to overcome the enemy. There you go. Good job, boys. So took that. I don't know what it is, an embrasure, whatever the hell it is. Let's move the other squad forward here to take the objective. Wilson will get his first objective.
Right across
And he'll have enough movement points to move the last squad of his off this initial ridge. For some reason, we can't move into the trenches, so they're going to be in the open, exposed. Which is not good, but... First squad has also detected sort of the next line of enemy troops, so we'll go ahead and spend points there, attacking these guys and surprise them. They are below us also, so we're shooting down on them, and we just effectively suppressed them. Probably need to get the mortars off the beach next turn. But also, overall, we are... Oh, can Stern move? Okay, Stern can move and maybe help the squads of Dearborns on the right flank attack. He can at least bolster them, I think. Maybe not, I don't really remember. The naval rounds begin to pummel the SWAT of land north of the town. Okay, good. Just keep doing that. Let them keep pounding there. Feel free to pound whatever might be up there. We got to get up that way eventually, but at least the town itself should be secure from shells. We're moving toward one objective in the northern area of the town, but what are our major objectives? Are we supposed to clear? Oh, okay. How many casualties have we suffered? 2%, so nothing too bad yet. One objective is ours. You can't bolster. Only the captain can. Bastard. All right, let's move the mortars forward a bit. They're going to be disproportionately supporting the right flank, but... All right, he's got one more movement order. Attack those mortars, keep their heads down. At least they're shooting. We hadn't used them in the previous battles, like, at all. They also detected there's an enemy officer there, so. Enemy squad up here attacking Wilson's boys.
Spara tutti.
It's okay. We've got the high ground. That should be okay, right? Alright. So let's focus on the right flank. These guys are technically suppressed. Very low odds of success. Alright. Alright. Oh, fuck. I didn't mean to move all of those guys. Sometimes I don't pay close enough attention to who I have selected. It's not the end of the world, but not really what I was planning is all. Enemy 75s are shooting. I suppose we can bolster these men. See if they can take the southernmost objective. Artillery, naval gunfire still coming in the north. I don't really care about that. There you go. We overran them. Good job, squad. Alright, now press those boys. It's going to stress them, but... Can you move one more hex and take another enemy unit out? Yes. Got another enemy squad. Okay. So the right flank near the exit there is getting taken care of. Now this was a bit of a longer video. It was about 2.5 hours for this particular scenario, so I don't want to do that long of an episode here, guys. And actually, at this point in my recording, my newborn started crying, and I had to leave, and the recording continued for like a half an hour of silence. So this is as natural a stopping point for me as a player as there is. We will stop here in the midst of the landings on Sicily. We will see how things play out in our next video of Burden of Command, which is out as of today. You can find it on Steam, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave your thoughts below, and until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.